Well, first let me say welcome to the new year. Happy New Year to you. I hope you had a fine holiday season. It is first week in January 2015. Good Lord, that's way into the future. Anyway, let's get started on a brand new year of kit building and painting and general falderall. We are experiencing a bit of a cold snap down here in North Carolina, so that unfortunately means no painting outside, no spraying, and very little spraying inside unless it's happens to be acrylic. A little bit of enamel spraying without a properly ventilated room will not do wonderful things for you. So what I'm going to do is catch up on where we were on a couple of projects and finish up and get into some cold weather building, which is a different kind of a different animal. Cold weather, you can do more gnarly things. You can do more lighting. You can do more acrylic painting. I have some figures here that I'm going to be painting with acrylics, that hand painting, not even airbrushing, so that you can maximize your amount of modeling time without having to go completely dark for the weather. And let's get started. I'm calling this one Back to the Battlestar because the Pegasus does need finish. Now luckily a large amount of the spraying is done. I did fix those seams on the bays, and that's done, and I'll show you that in a minute. But what I'm going left to do is some major construction, putting the big pieces together, and then some detail painting, which can be done by hand and also could be done with very minimal amount of spraying. And that is next. It's been more than a couple rounds of sanding and priming and using the watered down Bondo and sanding and priming some more. And I think I've got these landing bays to a point where I am ready to hit them again with the gunmetal, and then we'll put them together and dull coat them after that. But mostly worn down. Now, like I said, some of these seams you're never going to worry about, and some of them have just worn me out. They've outlasted me. They have persisted beyond my desire to fix them. So what I'm going to do now is hit them with the gunmetal. And here we are with Back to the Battlestar. You'll see the major pieces that I have left to put back together. And then I've got the guns and the engine detailing to put on. And what I'm going to do today is to secure the two flight decks, get those nice and epoxied in, and then I will be able to put the rest of it together and then put the last bit of detailing on. Now you can see, I'll show you, I still have the guards on those, but you can see how much better that back bay looks now. The seam is almost completely gone. Not completely, I'm not that good. It's mostly gone from there too. The other one didn't fare quite as well. You can still see the indent there, but on passing inspection, or glancing inspection, they do look a lot better, and that's what I was shooting for. Here you can see the top section with the engines in place, and I've already started some pre-shading. You'll notice that the recesses are a lot darker, or at least noticeably darker than the rest of it. And what I'm going to do for detailing the exterior, once I get all the pieces together, is I'm going to use some of my famous texturing templates and tiny sprays, very limited sprays, especially because it is indoors, and even though I'll be wearing a mask, the vapors tend to linger. I'll be using some metallizer, different colors of metal, and I will be doing some highlight spraying on to simulate plating on the ship, but that will be done later today once I get these engines epoxied in, and that's job one. We've got nothing left to it but to glue it. I've got the top piece all in one, and I've got the bays glued in, and what I did is just simply put a little bit of CA in those underneath the pockets and then hit them with some kicker, and they're nice in place. Now left to do is to do pop this on top of that and get the clamps out. But I'll tell you, it's pretty clean. It's a pretty clean joint without clamps, but I might get some rubber bands out to kind of keep the parts together, but that's the next step. Here's a lesson that I learned a while back, and I'll pass it on now in case any of you still haven't learned it or might find it useful. When dealing with putting two pieces of a model together that are very large, say this is one piece and this is another piece, where you have many points of contact and many pins that you need to glue and a big edge that you need to take care of, you need to work, or you'd like to work as fast as possible, but still have some measure of control of how everything is going together. So it's always been best for me to kind of lay out all of my clamps and tape and things like that in advance, so that once the pieces are together, I'm ready to really wrap it up or clamp it. Now, as much of an advocate as I am of you can never have too many clamps, I've picked up another tube of clamps last weekend, but this thing, once it goes together, is not going to be practical to be clamped. So you're either going to have to rubber band it or tape, and you want to use the low tack tape whenever possible, because you've got paint on the outside. But you've got two kinds of issues here. You've got the pins issue, and then you've got the perimeter issue. And I know that some of the faster drying glues that are out there that you might want to use or be tempted to use, by the time you finished putting the glue on this hole, you start here, and by the time you finished with this one, this is already drying out, and it's not going to go together smoothly, and it could be a big problem if you're trying to clamp two pieces together. So what I've taken to doing in this case, or these cases where you have a large number of pins over a wide area that need to be trapped together, is I've taken to using a 5-minute epoxy. Now, what a 5-minute epoxy gets you is 5 minutes of working time, obviously, and you could use 20-minute epoxy if that is more comfortable for you. They make 20-minute epoxy, they make 1-minute epoxy, which is really not appropriate here. 5-minute epoxy is what I have on hand, unless I go out to the store and pick up some 20-minute. But 5-minute epoxy is good for what I need to do, because I can mix up a batch, get them glooped into all of these, and then put the whole thing together within that 5-minute window. And the 5-minute epoxy will also allow these pins, an epoxy as opposed to a solvent glue, like a weld struck or a plastruct, or especially a CA. Not only doesn't it not set up instantly, but it also lubricates the shaft, to get vulgar for a minute. It'll lubricate that shaft to make it slipperier, so the pieces will actually go together easier. And then what I do is I take the plastruct, when everything is mostly together, and then just run a bead around the edge and then scoosh the whole thing together, and then wrap it with tape. I'm not going to be having a camera up during all of that, because I've only got two hands, and then there's a lot of swearing and cursing and jamming things together real fast, and you don't need to see that on camera. But what I'm going to do, just to reiterate, is I'm going to take the 5-minute epoxy, drop a bit of it into each of these holes, receptacles here. Rather than putting it on the pins, I'd rather put it down in the receptacles. And then I'm going to run a quick bead of the plastruct Weldine, knew a girl named Weldine once, Weldine, and put that around the perimeter, and then quickly jam that onto there, and then wrap the affected areas with tape. Wish me luck. One last quick shot of the pre-taped bottom before we commence with the mixing. And we're back. It only took a few heart-breaking minutes, or heart-racing minutes, but now it looks more like the Battlestar Bumblebee than the Pegasus, but it is glued, it is curing, and I'm going to let it, even though it sets 5-minute epoxy, that's the quick set on it. I'm going to let this sit for an hour or so, and maybe go out and get some lunch. It's Saturday afternoon after all, and I will maybe do a little bit more cleaning of the work area and lining up my paints and everything, but that's it in togetherness. Once all of the detail painting is done, then of course I will add the guns, and there's some engine detail to go back there that hasn't been put on yet. See you in a bit. And we're ready to call it quits for a Saturday night on the Pegasus at least. And you can see where it is. I've taken all the tape off of it. It is solid as a rock. It is not going anywhere. I still have the base covered because I am, well, except for this one because I wanted to see what it looked like. But I've got the base covered. And tomorrow I will do the texturing. Greetings. It is Sunday morning, or Sunday slightly afternoon. And I am getting down to the business of finishing off the paint on this Battlestar. You'll notice I have appropriately draped my work surface with old towels and paint shirts so as to minimize any overspray, or the damage that any overspray might cause. Since it is still chillingly cold outside, I cannot take this outside to paint as I normally would do. So I am going to be doing small controlled bursts of painting on the table with enamels, hate to say, with the metallizers. So breathing apparatus and exhaust fans will be employed, so it'll be mightily cold while I'm doing this. So I'm going to be doing it quickly and away from the camera eye so as to get it done as quick as possible. Because I like y'all, but I'm not going to blow up my heating bills just to show you. So what I'm going to do, firstly, I'll talk about it now while I can, is I'm going to take some of my handy dandy templates made for texture plating, and I'm going to use them over the surfaces. And the first thing I'm going to do is probably mix up a almost black, not a quite black, but an almost black. The Pegasus is a dark kit to begin with. And I'm going to be taking, most of this is gunmetal, which is already a fairly dark, but there is an even darker metallic black and an exhaust, which I think is slightly darker. I'm going through my available paints. I'm not going to run out and buy more paints because A, I just need a little, and B, you can't really get them around here anymore. I have to make a special trip to find a place that has metallizers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a darker color in some of these recesses and spray some dark accents, like maybe on the undersides or the insides of the engines. And then I'm going to come back on the high parts with brighter colors. It's as simple as that. I'm going to accentuate shadows with darker. I'm going to accentuate highlights with lighter. And once I get some of this prepared, I will show you how it goes down. Here is a quick one shot of basically what I am doing all over the whole ship, but I want to show it here while it's relatively clear and easy to see. What we've got is the ship coated with a gunmetal color and an airbrush with some magnesium color in it, which is a little bit lighter, not tremendously lighter, but a little bit lighter color of metallic. And the template piece in place. The important thing to notice about that is that the template piece is, best way to say it, it's perpendicular. It's straight up and down this way. It's parallel or perpendicular to the lines of the ship. It's not canted at a weird angle or anything like that, so that any plating that looks that is painted in result looks like it's in the proper perspective to the rest of the ship. I'm going to do this one little bit with the ventilation turned off and the mask removed and the brush loaded up, just to give you a live action idea. And it's not a plastering coat, it's kind of hit and miss. And this is one coat of what could be built up over, 5 or 10 different passes. And then you carefully remove it, and you see the result. Yes, this looks a little stark because it is the first pass. It'll get blended and added to and taken away from, but you can see where you kind of get the idea that these big panels now are broken up by smaller shapes of the painted color, and how it catches the light in different circumstances makes them stand out more or less, which is the heart of all Aztecing when it comes down to it. So now that you've seen that, I'm going to go bundle back up and do the rest of it. I'm hoping you can see how well the plates are showing up here. Yes, it's a bit blotchy and a bit contrasty, but this was only the first coat. Many coats, well, not many, at least 2 more will go over top of it to kind of blend in and mitigate some of this stuff. What we've got now is basically a good 2-tone paint job. It is the gunmetal with a magnesium over top of it, and you can see where it really helps give a sense of scale to the kit now, whereas this was one big panel before, and now it's a panel made up of many smaller panels. So definitely a little blotchier now than it will be in its final form. There's going to be a coat of a higher contrast, or of a almost a chrome, probably more of an aluminum, over that in some spots, not every place, but in some spots, notably the high spots, will get some of that, and back in here and whatnot. And I'll pick out some places that I want to be maybe a more solid, maybe no plating on. I tried to keep the plating off of these sections because I thought it looked better without it. So that's something I'll go back and touch up with the gunmetal to get rid of some of the overspray on some of those. And then I'll go in and I'll dry brush some really high highlights with maybe a medium gray or a dark gray that's not a metallic at all, and do some highlighting with that. And then I'll go in and do some contrast staining in these areas with a more watered down, thinned down version of the paints to kind of bring out, knock in the recesses and bring up the highlights. But the idea of this all along is to get a nice overall 2-tone skin color that we can use as a foundation for more of the detail painting. But because this is enamel paint, and it is metallic, and it is getting all over my fingers, and because I can't really do a lot of spraying today, I'm going to let this sit probably at least overnight. So this may be the last look at it. I think what I'm going to do is put those engine details on now that everything has been at least once painted once under here. I'll put those engine details on now and call this a done thing for the weekend. So let me get on with that. Okay, the engine piping is in. A little bit of wiggly work there. Need to do some sanding of some seams that weren't as obvious as I thought they were when I was painting it, but once I got into place became very noticeable. But those will be done with a lot of dry brush work and hand painting. But got those in spot, in place, and here's an overall look at the basic texture, and this is where it will finish for the weekend. So I will continue and pick this up on the next chapter.